Welcome to the course, What's New in version 12 for the KACE Systems Management Appliance. Please review the Quest Confidential and Proprietary document. Help Nick, the IT administrator, in his quest to learn more about the KACE Systems Management Appliance. In this course, you and Nick will learn about security improvements, service desk improvements, and other appliance improvements. Now that you have a better understanding of the course objectives, let's begin. First, we will look at security improvements made to KACE SMA version 12. It is now possible to enable SSL during initial setup. Simply upload the private key and SSL certificate. If an intermediate certificate is necessary, simply select Enable Intermediate SSL Certificate and upload the appropriate file. If you don't have access to a certificate authority, simply use the Generate and Apply Self-Signed SSL Certificate. Just make sure to properly deploy the associated certificate to your environment so your devices trust the SMA web interface. If you use an internal certificate creation process that doesn't also create a private key for you, simply skip the SSL configuration at this time and configure SSL using the wizard provided in Settings, Control Panel, Security Settings. On appliances with an organization's license, some things have changed as far as system org authentication are concerned. We can now leverage LDAP and SAML for authentication into the system org. Both configurations mirror that of what is available within the individual orgs, so I won't go into detail on the configuration of the features. The configuration sections for both are located in the system org at Settings Control Panel. With these changes, you will also have the ability to select an LDAP or SAML authenticated user as a global administrator. Multiple built-in accounts can now be altered to further increase the security of your SMA. The built-in accounts that can now be altered are config, netdiag, admin for both System UI and Admin UI. The built-in admin account can now be renamed and disabled. You can change the name of the admin account during initial setup or on an already configured appliance. Even the built-in admin account for the system org can be updated. Some things worth noting. Changing the built-in admin account username and login name does not alter the username used when authenticating to Samba. When the built-in admin account is disabled, but Samba is enabled, the built-in admin account is still the account you will need to use to authenticate to Samba. Disabling the built-in admin account will not lock out the KACE support user account, which is only active when a tether is connected and uses encrypted credentials that are created specifically for that tether connection. On an SMA with orgs, the built-in admin account can be disabled within each org and system org independently of each other. The console accounts, config, and netdiag now allow you to set a desired password. You must use the Appliance console to change the config and netdiag passwords. From the console, sign into the netdiag account. You will be presented with a list of available commands. Towards the end of the list, you will see the commands for set config password and set netdiag password. I will demonstrate the set config password command, but the set netdiag command functions exactly the same. First, let's look at the command help by typing help set config password. As you can see, the new password must be 14 characters long and must contain at least one lowercase letter, one uppercase letter, one number, and one of the displayed special characters. Pressing enter or return will exit the help. To initiate the setting of the new password, run the set command for the desired account and press enter or return. You will then be prompted for the new password and provided with a reminder of the requirements. Enter the desired password and press enter or return. Re-enter the password and press enter or return. At the command prompt, type exit and press enter or return. Now, try logging in with the default password or your new password to confirm the change was successful. To reset the password to default, sign into netdiag and run the reset command for the account that needs to be restored to default. Then, exit and confirm the change was successful. To help further secure Samba when it needs to be enabled, you now have the ability to disable guest access. This will require users to authenticate to see shares on the SMA in order to view the files present. After authentication, you can view the contents of the client share and add or remove content from the client drop share. In this lesson, we discussed SSL during initial setup, system org authentication, local account security, and Samba guest access. Now, let's look at improvements to the service desk. As users create a new ticket, KB articles can be searched to possibly help them resolve their issue without needing to submit the ticket they started. Within a couple of seconds of typing in the title field, the search will begin. Any created KB articles that match parts of the phrase entered for the title will be displayed in the box labeled Top Article Suggestions. The suggested knowledge base article feature is always on and cannot be turned off, but does not require any extra effort to ignore when results are not relevant. However, if the service desk queue is configured to hide the title field, the search will not occur as it is fully based upon what is entered into the title field. If there aren't any KB articles created within the SMA, then no results will be returned, as it only searches the local SMA for related articles. It is worth mentioning, KB articles that are restricted to specific sets of users by label will only appear in the search results for those users within that label. Probably the largest new feature arriving with version 12 of the SMA is the ability to import service desk tickets from a CSV file. This is the first iteration of this feature, so customer feedback for improving this feature is critical. Please post or vote up already posted improvement suggestions to KACE User Voice. Here are some tips for using this feature for the first time to transfer tickets from another ticketing system into the KACE SMA. Make sure to save the CSV file with UTF-8 encoding prior to importing into the KACE SMA. Other encoding may result in import failures. Make sure the fields you want to retain from the old ticket system have already been created in the KACE Service Desk queue you will be importing data into. The amount of data in the CSV file will dictate the amount of time required to import the CSV. Make use of primary keys to prevent duplicate tickets from being created. Any data that would be rejected by a field during manual entry will also be rejected by the field during import. For example, if you try to import a paragraph of words into a field configured as a link, the data will be rejected as it is not in the correct format. Similar will go for text into numbers-only fields and vice versa. The process for importing tickets from CSV is very similar to the process of importing assets from CSV. To begin importing tickets, navigate to Service Desk Configuration and click the Import Tickets link. Browse to and select the desired CSV file containing the ticket information to be imported. If there is a header row in the CSV, make sure to select the File Header Row option to improve the data mapping options for the import. Select the desired queue where you will be importing the data into. Where applicable, select an associated ticket template. If there may be users associated to the imported tickets that may not already be imported into the SMA, select the Auto Create User option to have the user accounts created. Not doing so may generate errors if the users are not already present. User matching first checks user ID if there is a number in the field, then user email if the field contains an email address, and finally user display name. The CSV fields drop-downs will list the headers from the header row in the CSV. Use the drop-down to select the column that matches the related field. Make sure to select those items that will function as the primary key. The best fields are those that help the imported data from one row properly associate with another row. For example, title is typically a good start, but often will not work as the only primary key. As an example of how you can retain the ticket number from the old ticket system, I created a custom field titled Old Ticket Number. I am associating the ticket ID column from my CSV with this field. This could be used to help you with associating multiple lines in a CSV to the same imported ticket. After you have all of your mappings configured, click the Preview button. On the confirmation page, you will see all records that will be successfully imported, and those that will be rejected. Rejected records will provide some error information regarding the reason the import will fail for that record. Depending upon the errors, we can start by clicking Previous and adjust the CSV mapping and primary key selections. After making changes, you will want to click Preview again and see which errors remain. If you are uncertain which field is actually generating the error, you can scroll a page to the right and you will see the column and expected data to be imported. You may find that you have to edit your CSV file to fix the error. For example, to properly import comments, you need to make sure the format is open quotes, date time, close quotes, semicolon, open quotes user, close quotes, semicolon, open quote comment, close quote. If you need to account for setting the comment owners only flag, add another semicolon, open quote, owners only flag, Y or N, depending on yes or no, and close quote. When multiple comments are in the same cell, use open bracket, EOL, close bracket, to indicate the end of a comment. Imported comments can contain HTML, and the HTML will be retained. Where ticket categories are concerned, the import can either use the category name, for example, hardware, printer, toner, color, or the category ID. However, there must be an identical match or the row will be rejected. Ticket fields configured with the select field type. The imported data must contain data that matches. This is also case sensitive. After updating and saving the CSV file, you will need to redo the select import file step. This will not adjust field mapping and primary key selection unless the associated column has been removed or a different file is selected. When you are ready, click the Import button. The Import Tickets status page will provide the import status. The size of the CSV file will determine the length of time it takes to import the data. Click the Here link to refresh the page as necessary. It is not possible to stop an active import, so you may want to begin with a small CSV file containing a few practice tickets before importing your larger CSV files. When the import has completed, you will receive a review of the number of successfully imported records and the errors from those records that were not imported. Clicking Done will take you to the ticket queue where the data was imported. You should see your imported tickets and be able to click on the ticket number or title to view the imported data. Imported comments will be indicated by the Via Import statement. In this lesson, we discussed KB suggestion during ticket creation and ticket importation. Finally, let's look at the rest of the improvements to the KACE SMA in version 12. Many things have been adjusted on the back end to improve appliance scalability, including how appliance load is determined. To improve efficiency, we increased Apache threads allowed per loop, adjusted task sleep to only increase if CPU load exceeds target or max running tasks have been sent per loop, adjusted task sleep to only decrease if CPU load is below target, all of which resulted in the ability to also clean up and remove extra lines of code, further improving general processing time for many tasks in the back end of the SMA. As a result of the performance enhancements, there are new estimated scalability calculations for version 12 plus of the KACE SMA. Due to these calculations being version 12 plus specific, they may not be made available on the Quest support website until a later release, or they may be listed separately from the currently listed calculations. It is still recommended best practice, since the KACE SMA is a database server, that you run the VM on a different set of drives from your other database servers and mail servers whenever possible. Doing so will decrease the likeliness that disk I/O will adversely affect appliance performance. Appliance load is now more related to CPU load and memory load. This means that many performance issues or performance gains needed can be addressed by simply adding more cores and RAM to the KACE SMA virtual machine. Memory will have a greater impact than CPU, and as a best practice, make sure you have at least 2 gigs of RAM per CPU or core assigned to the VM. If you need more performance, add RAM first. Especially when it comes to running elaborate reports, RAM will have a greater impact than CPU. On occasion, something just goes wrong. In those instances, you may need to deploy a new VM and restore your SMA from backups. Or maybe you are needing to migrate to a new VM for other reasons. Previously, it was necessary to run through all of the basic configuration settings and then import and restore from backup. Starting with version 12, we can now restore from backup during the initial setup as the first step in disaster recovery. It is worth mentioning that it is still necessary to have the new appliance version match the appliance version of the appliance used to create the backup files. For example, you can restore 12.0 backup files to the 12.0 appliance, but you cannot restore 11.1 backup files to the 12.0 appliance. In this video, we will look at both the typical restore from backup process and the restore from backup with override network configuration. When you first boot the appliance and connect to the IP address assigned by DHCP via your preferred web browser, you will be presented with the typical end-user license agreement page. After accepting the EULA, you will see the first step in configuring the new SMA. On this page, just above the Next button, you will see the option for Restore/Migration. Selecting the Restore Migration radio button and clicking the Next button will take us into the process allowing the upload of the backup files. The very first thing you will need to do is upload the backup files. Make sure to correctly select the differential backup and base backup files using the Browse button in the respective boxes. As a reminder, the differential backup has INCR in the file name and the base backup has base in the name. Click the Upload Files button when both files have been selected. A couple of things to note about uploading the backup files. At this time, the upload is limited to 4 GB. So, if one of your backup files is larger than the 4 GB limit, which may be represented as 3.5 GB for some systems, the backup files will not upload, and you will need to resort to the old process of performing a basic configuration, upload the backup files to the Samba share, and perform the restore. For backups larger than 4 GB, it is also possible to turn on FTP from the console using the NetDiag account. Run the command start ftpd-w. After FTP has been started, you can then use an FTP client to upload the backup files to the SMA. Using this method will enable FTP write, and it will persist through reboots. So, you will want to make sure to disable FTP through the security settings after the restore has completed. After uploading the backups, there is a period of time where the appliance validates the files. This could take several minutes depending upon the size of the backup files. The page will auto-refresh and show the uploaded backup files. If you don't have to alter the network settings to prevent a conflict when this VM comes back online after the restore, then you are ready to click the Restore from Backup button. However, if you are pre-staging this VM on the same network that your active SMA is running, you will want to select the Override Network Configuration option. This will allow you to specify new network settings to replace those included in the backup files. After you have specified the desired network settings, you will be ready to click the Restore from Backup button. As usual, the restore duration will be dependent upon the size of the backup files and the amount of resources supplied to the VM. There are some device support changes worth mentioning. Only agent versions supported are 11.0 up to current version of 12.x agent. The agent no longer supports 32-bit versions of Linux, with the exception of Raspbian, which is only available in 32-bit currently. It is now possible to use case variables with the agent shortcuts feature. When using the built-in agent provisioning feature, WinRM is now the only mechanism that can be used to provision Windows devices. The WS-API inventory upload feature is no longer available. The version 12 agent adds support for Windows 10 21H1, Windows 11, which it is worth mentioning portions of Windows 11 support will be staggered. The agent supports Windows 11, but some features like patching and Windows feature updates have not been certified for proper functionality as of the version 12 release date. M1 Apple Silicon, and Windows Server 2022. Agentless support can now be used for Ubuntu 21.04, FreeBSD 13, Fedora 34, OpenSUSE 15.3, and Windows 10 21H1. Version 12 of the SMA begins the support for using Nutanix as a virtualization platform. In this lesson, we discussed appliance scalability, restore or migration during initial setup, and device support changes. In this course, we discussed security improvements, service desk improvements, and other appliance improvements. If you wish to learn more about the KACE appliances, you may be interested in the listed web-based training courses. Be ready with KACE Academy. Take advantage of the myriad of tools to improve your knowledge and understanding of KACE products, and give your organization a step up in handling everything that comes your way. Visit mycaseacademy.com for more information. Thank you for attending this web-based training course.